4 years, 2 months in prison.
Wow.
He served a year. He gets some time. He gets 15% credit, so he'd be at 14-ish.
2.5 years.
2 months.
So, and then he gets another 15% in the remaining.
Yeah.
He's out in 2 years.
Yeah. Should have stuck with the original guest.
I know.
Yeah. Why
I
didn't
know.
It starts with an image that feels impossible. Sean Diddy Combs, once photographed in silk robes and sparkling light, now standing under fluorescent bulbs at Fort Dix in New Jersey, gray streaking through his hair, clutching a pile of folded laundry that isn't his. The same hands that once signed million-dollar contracts are scrubbing uniforms for 23 cents an hour. The footage that leaked in late October shows him
I think Sam Bankman-Fried were in the unit that was one floor above mine. You know, so in terms of like the setting, it's a fairly decent chance that the room I'm describing is similar to where Diddy is.
We've watched this man walk carpets and red carpets alike, but we never imagined we'd see him clocking in. October 30th, 2025. His transfer to Fort Dix after 13 months inside Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center, a facility described by former inmates as hell on earth. His lawyers had begged for Fort Dix, calling it safer, closer to family, more rehabilitative. The Bureau of Prisons finally agreed. By November, CBS News publishes intake photo. His eyes dull, his hair turned gray, the uniform unmistakable. That image became the symbol of a slow-motion downfall. America's first hip-hop billionaire reduced to inmate number 8071304. It's a long fall from the days when his name meant power. The same man once honored as a global icon at the MTV Awards now starts as
P. Diddy was taken to a Brooklyn hospital from MDC. MDC is the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. It's where Diddy's been held since his arrest back in September. His team has tried multiple times for bail, but it's always been denied. So that's where Diddy has been for months now, but last week he was taken to the hospital.
When that first clip surfaced, Diddy inside the Chapel Library handing out DVDs to inmates. Commentators called it humbling. But insiders who spoke to CBS described something else. That's not humility, one said. That's survival. Fort Dix might be low security, but it's still a pressure cooker. Former inmates have called it a zoo, a place where the wrong look at the wrong time sparks fights over onions. In those dorms, fame isn't protection, it's provocation. Mark Geragos, his longtime lawyer, warned early on that Combs would have a target on his back. Within weeks of arrival, reports surfaced of confrontations and a three-way phone call that broke Bureau of Prisons rules. The same call allegedly involved his legal team in a discussion about sending a statement to the New York Times. That mistake cost him 90 days of phone and commissary privileges, a punishment that wiped out his access to money and communication. Officially, the infraction was small. Symbolically, it was enormous. Less than a month inside, he'd already shown the same pattern that defined his case. Control slipping through his fingers even as he tried to steer the narrative. We can trace the story back to where it started in September 2024 when federal agents indicted him on charges of racketeering. The indictment detailed an alleged net...
A judge says here the data shows a wide variety of sentences. Weighing all the relevant factors, the court determines that the sentence is 50 months of incarceration.
50.
4 years.
4 years.
5-0.
4 years, 2 months.
2 months.
Yep. Wow.
His letter to the judge before sentencing sounded like confession. I lost my way. My downfall was rooted in my selfishness. But prosecutors reminded the court of what they'd heard in testimony. Control, violence, and fear. U.S. District Judge Oren Silbermanian refused bail and told him a significant sentence was required as a deterrent. The outcome landed somewhere between mercy and message. 42 months in prison plus time served. Then came the appeal filed by attorney Alexander Shapiro on October 20th. The argument was familiar. The Mann Act, the century-old law used to convict him, was outdated, applied unfairly, and racially coded. But legal analysts were blunt. The evidence, they said, was overwhelming. The verdict solid. Still, his team kept pushing, even requesting that he be transferred to Fort Dix specifically for access to its residential substance abuse program, RDAP. The one program that can cut a...
I'm happy to go. So we think that's just absolutely inconsistent with the jury's verdict. I mean, the jury's verdict was resoundingly clear. There was no trafficking. There was no racketeering. Everything was consensual. Everything was adult, which is why he was convicted only of the prostitution offense. What we feel happened today was that the judge acted as a 13th juror, one that we did not choose, and that he second-guessed the jury.
By late November, he was officially enrolled. His publicist released a short statement describing a man committed to sobriety and focused on healing. On paper, it sounded like transformation. Off paper, insiders say it looked more like choreography. The violation reports, the alleged contraband rumors, the constant image management, they all point to a man still playing the only game he knows, control the story, even from a dorm full of strangers. Meanwhile, the system watches him closely. Fort Dix's RDAP program is no public relations exercise. It demands daily therapy circles, written reflections, accountability sessions that tear down ego and denial. Participants who fail to open up or who break even minor rules are expelled and lose any time or benefit. The same insiders who confirmed his enrollment also warned that his disciplinary record could jeopardize his standing. If the Bureau decides is manipulating the process, he could lose not just his privileges but his chance at early release. That tension, rehabilitation, or rebranding hangs over everything. Former inmate Sebastian Teller, who shared the facility until his release in December, told TMZ that Combs was holding it down and in good spirits. Yet behind that optimism, there's a constant shadow of scrutiny. His appeal remains pending.
Yeah, this is a real issue. And I think Diddy's lawyers are right when you're talking about somebody who's not, supposed to not be able to be accessed in this way.
And that's super scary. If he, in fact, woke up with a knife to his throat, I mean, that's friggin' terrifying.
Yeah. No, this is a real issue. And I think Diddy's lawyers are right when you're talking about somebody who's not, supposed to not be able to be accessed in this way. And that's super scary. If he in fact woke up with a knife to his throat, that's freaking terrifying. It's the placement that keeps us wondering. Out of all the federal prisons in the country, how does a man like Sean Combs end up in the very facility his team requested? Fort Dix's wasn't random. It was strategy, minimum security, open dorms, a program that can cut an entire year off a sentence. We've seen federal inmates wait months, even years, for RDAP openings. But somehow, Diddy walked right in. The paperwork moved fast, faster than anyone inside could remember. A few former Bureau employees have quietly suggested...
So apparently Diddy's knee has been bothering him recently, so he reported it. At some point, it was decided that he needed medical care outside of the jail, so he was taken to a Brooklyn hospital.
By mid-December, another rumor started circulating through inmate networks. Someone allegedly spotted him celebrating with a few others in his dorm. Nothing wild, just laughter, music from a smuggled speaker, maybe even a hint of something brewed from fruit and sugar. Nothing confirmed, of course. His lawyers denied it immediately, but the damage was done. RDAP demands spotless behavior, and any sign of misconduct could get you thrown out. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The man preaching self-control might have just sabotaged a very program designed to save him a year of freedom. Insiders at Fort Dix told us the hierarchy that works differently when a celebrity shows up. Some inmates treat fame as currency. Others see it as a threat. Former professional athletes, politicians, and financiers have passed
to appeal. The strongest basis is that the jury reached a verdict on coercion. It found there was not coercion, and I think the judge said coercion today as a basis for a sentence at least a dozen times. We think that is unconstitutional.
Even the
RDAP staff, according to one counselor who's worked there for years, are wary of celebrity participants. They all say they want help, the counselor said, but most just want the time off. Inmates in the program live in a separate housing unit, a place where therapy circles replace fights, and every statement is dissected for honesty. If Diddy's in those circles, he's expected to speak like everyone else to admit fault out loud. That's something is never done publicly. Judge Supermanian made that clear at sentencing. His biggest problem wasn't the verdict. It was the absence of remorse. The legal maneuvering continues outside the prison walls. In January 2026, his appeal team filed new motions challenging both the verdict and the sentence length. They claimed the judge misapplied the Mann Act, that it was never meant for private relationships or adult encounters. Legal experts aren't convinced. One called the argument the last gasp of a PR campaign disguised as a legal strategy. They might have a point. Every filing from his defense comes with an accompanying media push. Statements, leaks, even motivational posts from his verified social accounts. It's as if the appeal is being fought in court and online at the same time. But the deeper we look, the stranger the pattern becomes. The same week his team announces RDAP enrollment, they also began seeding stories about a new chapter in spiritual renewal. Major outlets were suddenly flooded with near-identical phrasing. Then came the feature in a lifestyle magazine written by a journalist who coincidentally had previously attended one of his foundation's charity events. The piece painted him as a man humbled, learning from consequence. It didn't mention the disciplinary record, the delayed release date, or the whispers that he might be leveraging therapy as an early release campaign. Even inside, the performance continues. One inmate who recently finished the program said that Diddy keeps a small notebook with him everywhere. He's always writing, the inmate said. Looks like lyrics, but people think it's part of his treatment homework. That same inmate claims Diddy's been overheard talking about the comeback, referring not to life after prison, but to a documentary deal allegedly...
Look, they once worked together a long time ago. They're not friends now. They don't like each other. And yeah, 50 has taken every shot, especially when Diddy has been down.
Still, the cracks are visible. His appeal filings mention psychological distress and trauma-driven behavior, framing his actions as symptoms rather than choices. That language mirrors the tone of his recent letters to supporters, handwritten notes that somehow find their way onto social media. The publicist calls them reflections. Critics call them manipulation. Either way, they work. The narrative shifts slightly every time. One week is contrite, the next is misunderstood, the next is spiritually reborn. The through line is always control. We can't ignore the larger irony. For years, his brand was built on dominance. Bad Boy Records, the business mogul persona, the luxury empire. Now, every part of his image is tied to powerlessness. And yet somehow he still manages to dictate coverage from a dormitory shared with 8 other men. When the media leaks that he's losing privileges, new photos appear showing him calm, even smiling. When court documents mention possible misconduct, his team releases letters about faith. The pattern is so tight it feels rehearsed. Meanwhile, legal analysts say the Bureau of Prisons has grown impatient with the constant attention. Every tabloid story about Fort Dix drags him into unwanted spotlight. According to 2 former